Hi, my name is Troy Mealey. I'm an IFBB Pro Bodybuilder. I received my pro card July 19th of 2019. Fast forward 1 year later to July 19th, my life took a dramatic turn as I was admitted to the hospital with COVID. Things started on July 13th of 2020 with a dry cough. But I felt fine, didn't think much of it. And then on July 14th, I went to work. I felt fine, a little bit tired, and the cough, was a little bit more. But I still felt fine. But on July 15th, I felt much worse. And I called in sick to work because I was really, really tired. And by about 3 p.m. on July 14th, I started having a fever along with chills. And they became worse as the day went on. I had shivers and could barely talk. My wife had gone to work, so I would text message her my temperature. And at one point, my temp was as high as 102 on that day. On July 16th, I called in sick to work because everything felt worse. My chills were up. My cough had gone away, but I was starting to have a hard time to breathe, and my temperature had gotten as high as 103 degrees. So on July 17th, my breathing got worse. And as far as the chills and fevers, they kind of settled down, but I was still very tired. It felt like I had a really hard leg day the day before, and I was just feeling that aftermath of that. So we just kind of laid around all day on the 18th and didn't do much of anything, and decided to go to bed early. And so I fell asleep for a couple of hours, and I woke up in the middle of the night having a hard time breathing on my back. And so at one point, we decided to get up and get dressed and possibly go to the ER. And then things progressively got worse, so we decided we're definitely gonna go to the ER. But halfway there, I kind of started to panic and think, I'll be fine. And so we turned around and came back home. In our home, we have 16 stairs, and walking up those stairs was extremely hard for me. And so it was at that point that my wife and I decided, nope, we're going to the ER because this is getting too serious. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, we got to the ER, and because of the protocols for COVID-19, even if you're a family member, unless you have symptoms of COVID-19, you can't accompany a family member into the ER. The rules are you drop them off and you leave. So that's what my wife did. She dropped me off. We couldn't hug or kiss each other, and she was promptly told, you can leave now. So my anxiety went from extreme anxiety to extreme fear, because my wife, who is always with me for pretty much everything we do and everywhere we go, had to leave me alone. And so I was there with no one to be by my side, or my wife to be by my side, and to make sure that everything was okay. So they promptly took me into the COVID-19 tent, sat me down, took my information, and they took my blood pressure, took my temperature, and did a COVID-19 swab. It was at that point that they decided to do a chest x-ray. As a profession, I'm a surgical technologist, have been for 25 years, and I've seen plenty of x-rays, mainly orthopedic with bone fractures and everything. But when they came back with my x-rays, I can see, of my lungs, I can see that there was very, very little room. It was almost completely white, which is causing my difficulty in breathing. My O2 sats were 88%, and so, and that was the reason why. My lungs were filled, and they determined that I had double pneumonia. So I spent Sunday the 19th in a regular room, and around 11 o'clock that day, my COVID-19 test results came back, and they came back positive. So I was immediately admitted and moved to a different area of the hospital where they keep all the COVID-19 patients. And they immediately gave me all the medications that they give the COVID-19 patients, remdesivir in high doses, steroids, and I received a convalescent plasma to also help with the COVID-19. On July 20th, the pulmonologist called my wife and said that they were going to intubate me emergently. And so I didn't have a chance to call her, and immediately was intubated. Previous to that, my wife says that she called me and we FaceTimed each other, but for me, I don't remember anything honestly past sitting down in that chair in the ER. My wife has told me a lot of the things that happened in terms of my treatment, in terms of my body's response to what was going on around me, but I have no recollection. For example, my initial intubation, for some reason I decided I didn't want to be intubated, so I pulled the tube out of my throat, which, as you can imagine, upset and frightened the doctors. So I was re-intubated and spent the next 19 days in an induced coma. I woke up on day 19 and in the ICU with a nurse by my side. I had 2 tubes down my throat helping me breathe. And she calmly explained to me where I was, how long I'd been there. She explained to me what was going on and did her best to reassure me that I was going to be fine, but it's going to take some time. And so it was at that point, you know, once I really started to be able to really understand where I was and what was going on, I immediately thought, okay, well, this has happened, and now I need to figure out a way to handle it. We were never so arrogant or naive to think that the COVID-19 virus wouldn't get to us. I just figured it would be just like an extreme version of the flu. I would get chills and a headache and, you know, all that, but it wouldn't get to the point to where I would need to be intubated for 19 days. But there I was. And so, as a competitive bodybuilder, we're always setting goals for ourselves, and once we reach those goals, we set another one. So in my mind, I immediately thought, all right, well, we're gonna treat this like a contest prep. And so I'm starting from day 1. And so from here on, the goal is to get better and get back to where I was. I went into the ER weighing 224 pounds, and we realized or found out when I got home and stood on our scales that I was 174 pounds. So I lost 50 pounds over the time that I was in the hospital, which was a total of 26 days. So fast forward to the ICU, I spent a few days there and then was transferred to a regular room because of my improvement. And so we stayed there for a few days, and then I was able to go home on August 14th. So I've been home almost 2 weeks now. It'll be 2 weeks tomorrow. And a good friend of mine sent me Simon's link, and I was immediately struck by how closely similar our experiences were. And so In my mind, I had already decided, like I said, to use this like a contest prep and start setting goals for myself, um, and seeing how Simon had basically been through the same thing and made an amazing recovery. That confirmed my goals and inspired me that I was on the right track in my thinking. So rewind a little bit back to being in the hospital and in a coma. A lot of people ask me, did I see things, did I have dreams or this and that? And I know Simon mentioned that his dreams were very violent, but my dreams weren't violent, but I was just in places and in situations that were not realistic. And I knew that consciously, but I also knew that at some point I would be out of the situation. I never felt like I was stuck anywhere. I just knew that it was a situation and I would get out of it. And there were several versions of that dream, or that type of dream, but nothing violent. A little scary because I was in places that I knew I shouldn't be. But one of the dreams that I had related to, I was on a ranch in Texas somewhere, which I've never been. I was a ranch hand for, strangely and oddly enough. Another one where I was in like alternate universes, and I didn't know how to get out, and sometimes it seemed like I was in a video game. And in one in particular, I was actually given a bird's eye view of my own funeral, which is very unsettling. And that was the most unsettling of all the dreams that I had. Back to here we are now, and again, seeing Simon's story, like I said, just reaffirmed for me that my mentality as far as getting my body back to where it was, getting strong, and getting back to the opportunity and ability to get back on stage was just reaffirmed and strengthened because I saw his progress and his beginnings and where he is now. And so I know that for me, that gives me inspiration to continue on that track. And I will be back as big and as strong as I was before. So for those of you who don't believe that COVID is real, let me just give you some details of what I went through, which was relayed to me from my wife. There were a few times during this whole experience that I took a turn and they didn't think they were going to get me back. One of them was when they put me on the ventilation machine, and they had to max out the settings because my body was unable to breathe on its own. And they were telling my wife to be prepared that I might not make it from that. And then at another point, they put a catheter in my femoral vein in my quad to start what's known as ECMO, which basically removes your blood, oxygenates it, and puts it back into your body because my lungs were not able to oxygenate my blood. And then there was another point to where my small intestines completely shut down, and they were telling my wife that I was going to probably have to have emergency surgery, which again, I may not recover from and make it through the surgery itself. Luckily and thankfully, in both of those situations, my body decided to make a positive change, and I didn't need ECMO, and I didn't need the exploratory surgery to relieve the blockage in my small intestines. So being so near death a couple of times definitely changes your mindset. And you know, I've always been one of those people that has always appreciated everything that I have. And I made a habit years ago in the mornings when I wake up and say out loud what I'm grateful for. You know, things like my wife and my health and my home and my job and all that. So I've always been someone who appreciates everything that I have in life. But going through this experience has multiplied my gratefulness by a million. And I will use this and show my appreciation by not taking anything for granted, but also using my experience to explain to others that COVID-19 is not a joke. It doesn't care who you are, it doesn't care how old you are, it doesn't care how much money you have, it doesn't care what status you have in life. It will get you one way or another if you're not careful, even when you are careful. We did everything we were supposed to. We wore a mask, we wore gloves, and it still got me. But if you do follow the guidelines and wear your mask and wash your hands and all that, you lessen the chances of it getting to you. So for those of you that think COVID is a joke, or I'm too young, or you know, I never get sick, what I would say to you is, you know, it got me. I'm one of the healthiest people that I know, and it got me. And my experience is extreme, and there are some people out there who get it and have no symptoms whatsoever. There are some people out there who get it and have minimal symptoms, and then there's me and Simon, and our experiences were the absolute extreme, but we pulled through, and we're here to tell you all that take it serious, that it's not a joke, and you know, lessen your chances of catching it by following the guidelines. One of the things for me that I experienced after I woke up and thinking back were the dreams that were some of the most realistic I've ever had in my life. I remember laying in the ICU when I was finally awake, and during the day I was fine. During the day, you know, I could talk to my nurses, and I could see people walking around, and you know, that was my reality. But at night is when the fear crept in. At night is when I didn't want to fall back asleep, because I wasn't sure if what I was experiencing in the ICU was real, or if I close my eyes, I go back into that alternate universe. For the longest time, you know, I would keep myself awake, even at night, no matter what was going on around me, no matter how tired I was. They would give me something to help me sleep. I fought it because I did not want to go back there. And even when I got home, I needed constant reassurance from my wife that I was okay, I was home, I was safe, and it was real. And even to this day, there's moments when something I'll see on TV, or my wife will say something, or my mind will just kind of go back there, and I need to reassure myself that I'm awake, I'm fine, and everything is going to be okay. There are times when I wake up in the middle of the night and I reach for my wife just to make sure that I'm not dreaming, or I'll look around our bedroom and I'll look at the things that are in our room that we put there, and it just reaffirms the fact that you're alive, you're healthy, you're gonna be fine, you survived COVID, and you're gonna be better. So, you know, again, this virus is real. And, you know, I want people to do everything that they can to keep themselves safe and healthy, because I wouldn't wish this experience on anyone. Another one of the things that I experienced after I woke up was extreme weakness. I couldn't do just basic things like, you know, put my contacts in or hold an ink pen to communicate, especially when the tubes were in my throat. There were so many things that I wanted to say to my nurses or to my wife, and we tried, you know, like writing it down. We tried alphabet boards where I can circle the letters and, you know, maybe communicate what I'm trying to say. And that was the most frustrating for me because I knew what I wanted to say, and but I just couldn't get that out. You know, there's simple things like holding my phone. I can't tell you how many times I dropped my phone in a short amount of time because I just didn't have the strength. So that was very frightening and frustrating for me, but I also knew that eventually that would all come back, so I had to be patient. But yeah, that, I can't stress enough how grateful I am to be alive, how grateful I am to have my wife, how grateful I am for the many, many years of bodybuilding and being healthy. I believed is a big part of what saved my life, along with the expertise and talent of all the doctors and nurses that helped me pull through. And my wife and all my family and friends praying for me. So, yeah. Questions people always ask me is how I stay motivated, what keeps me going to the gym day in and day out, no matter what's going on outside, no matter if the weather's good or I had a long day at work or I'm a little tired, this and that. I started working out in bodybuilding when I was 12 years old. I am now 56 years old, and you know, I just tell people, you know, you need a good why. Even though I fell in love with bodybuilding at such a young age, it also kind of drifted out into other areas of my life and gave me confidence to do a lot of things that I probably would have never done otherwise. But I think everyone needs to decide what their why is. My why is I love how it feels. I love what it's done for me over the years and in my life. And I always want to get better in every area, but especially bodybuilding. If you have a weak why, you're always going to come up with an excuse why you can't go to the gym, why you can't eat right, why you don't want to buy the supplements you need, why you don't want to do the research to make your body better, to make yourself better. But if you can come up with a good why as to for your motivation, and it's different for everybody, you know, but if you make yourself that why and, you know, use that as your motivation in terms of wanting to improve yourself every day and be the best version of you, that's an excellent starting point. And then that way, no one can take that from you. And when you want to be the best version of yourself, everyone can see that and everyone can be inspired by that. And at some point, they will have the same mindset. I have always trained and lived with a no excuses attitude when it comes to bodybuilding and it comes to every other area of my life. If I make a decision, set a goal, and make a plan, and then execute that plan, for me, nothing gets in my way until that goal has been reached. and then I set another goal, and after that, so on and so on. So for me, it starts with a strong why. If you've got a weak why, it's never going to happen. And so that's what I tell people, sit down and really think about what's going to motivate you, what's going to keep you going no matter what's going on in your life, no matter what's going on in your family or at work, or even if you have COVID-19. And so for me, again, like I mentioned earlier, I never thought, nope, I'm done training. No more bodybuilding for me. For me, it was, all right, let's get to work and getting my body back. The goal has always been to be on the professional bodybuilding stage, and so that's where I am now. And so, that's what we're working toward. That is our ultimate goal, and eventually be on the Olympia stage. Those are the goals that I've set for myself, and I'm not going to let COVID-19 or anything else get in my way of making that happen. And so that's where we are now. And so anyone who wants to start and be a success in whether it's in bodybuilding or any other sport, get yourself a strong why, stick to that why, remind yourself every day, and you'll be successful.